Hello, my name is Jeff Gimiolo, and today I'm going to talk about weight loss. More specifically, things I've done throughout the past to help me lose weight, and why they did work and why they didn't work, and what effect they actually had on me. As a child, was always overweight. I was pretty much already 30 pounds over ideal weight anyway. So largely, as much as I wore it well, because when you are a child and you have that weight on you, you develop very strong legs and you do have a good stature to you. So all your systems in your body actually build a mechanism to support that weight. And as long as you kind of keep that ratio with your entire life, you usually don't have any medical problems related to it. It's when you suddenly add weight, you got a problem. Don't get me wrong. If you're really, really horribly overweight, you should actually probably go see a doctor. However, as I said, as a child, I was overweight. It did not help when going through, puberty or anything like that. It was not good. When I was in the military, oddly enough, I was 30 pounds or 35 pounds above, quote, what military weight. Military weight, I was supposed to be 168. I came in there at 185, or I left boot camp at 185, which meant I was still overweight, and I probably lost 10 or 15 pounds in the process. So, as I said, it's the good thing about having this weight, which people don't talk about, is, remember I told you a minute ago, you build strong legs, you build long arms, because you got to support this weight. So when they throw a backpack on you to carry it long distances, it didn't really bother you because you're kind of used to carrying this weight. So it really wasn't really a problem. Usually the biggest problem at that time was drinking too much, eating at McDonald's, that kind of thing. Despite you're in the military, you really didn't want to eat food on base, so you kind of went out with your friends, kind of thing. Civilian life actually did not help at all either. And it has really nothing to do with alcohol at that point, because I think actually I wasn't working, was too poor to actually drink. What usually it boiled down to is inconsistent eating. So you would kind of binge eat and then not, binge eat, then not eat for 2 days, kind of thing. It's very weird. Well, unfortunately, I got married. Or I should say fortunately, but it didn't work out. So unfortunately, I got married. And what was interesting about marriage is, especially when you have, we had 2 daughters, and I had 2 stepdaughters in the house, you have to eat regular meals. So now at this point, you gain some weight back because now you're eating regular meals, and you're eating actually quite a bit. The recipe my wife used to use was, quote, 1 portion for me and another half portion divided among all 3 of them, which technically was, my wife got half, a quarter, and each of the stepdaughters got a quarter, a piece of a quarter, I guess an eighth. So it's like 1/8, 1/8, 1/4, and half is what the ratio was. So needless to say, in one sitting, you pretty much could put down a roast without a problem. I didn't have a problem, and I said I gained weight. I was lucky that where I worked, we had to go outside to smoke. You could smoke back then. So when I wanted a cigarette, I would go have to walk out with some friends to the smoking lounge, which was outside. So it was pretty much a good 300 meter walk to get there. If I had to go to the bathroom, drink too much coffee, you have to go to the bathroom. I do that 20 times a day. So I always had a lot of exercise in me as far as walking. And I also had access to a scale every day. So as I would walk by and, go to the bathroom, I would jump on the scale and see what my weight was. And the scale was one of those pallet scales, so it wasn't really all that accurate. But it kind of gave me an indication of where I was going. And I just was not happy where I was at. So I did a little bit of research and I thought about it. And I think, if I remember correctly, I heard it on Rush Limbaugh. He said something. And it was talking about Atkins, using Atkins to get rid of carbs. So Atkins largely is a carb-free diet, more meat. It's almost all non-carb. So it's meat, eggs, whatever. So logically, I said, okay, well, and you have to do it for like 30 days or something. And what it said was after 30 days, it resets your system. So you no longer, you kind of processed internally all the fat carbs that you had, is really what the logic was. It's like, okay, well, let me try that. So I did that, and lo and behold, after 30 days on Atkins, I actually did not crave carbs anymore. It did its job. What's interesting about that but I wasn't really losing weight per se. I just didn't have a craving for carbs. It's like, I didn't lose the weight that I wanted to lose. So then I sat there and thought about it, and I go, well, I can't really maintain this. Because, you do go out with people, people do have birthdays, You got to eat some sort of carb somewhere. And then, actually, on a different show, I heard about Weight Watchers, which I was not about to pay money to lose weight. But I did like the idea of Weight Watchers points. So I kind of scrounged up a list of different foods and what their points were, and the basic mechanism of how it works. Well, you got so many points a day, and you got to do the math and find out with a formula of, based on how old you are, your gender, and what your goal weight is. It kind of gives you a recipe of, I eat so many points a day, but every week, because you weigh yourself, you recalculate that number to find out what points you have. You keep going less and less. Like it's 10. You have to do like 10 within 10% of that point number. Which, in a whacked out way, it's like, it didn't make sense. Years later, it actually did make sense, but at the time, it really didn't make sense. But the really weird thing about it is it actually worked. Because now I switched over to eating more vegetables, say. I would have celery because that was 0 points. I would eat a lot of 0 point stuff. Oddly enough, I would eat salsa and corn chips. From a point perspective, that's like 4 points for a whole big. So basically, if you eat like half a bag, it's like 10 points. But I'm supposed to be eating 18 a day. So if that's really the only points I'm eating is this tortillas, it's not terrible. And that's really what it was, is I would keep eating these points, but I would always have a deficit. I'd actually eat less points than I was supposed to. And then I read somewhere you have to eat within, you have to eat within like, 3 or 4 points of your, of the points. So I'm like, oh. So ironically, on a diet, I would go to the vending machine and buy a bag of chips because it has points. So if I was low 4 points for lunch, I would have a small little, real small little vending machine bag of potato chips. And people are like, you're not on a diet. And I go, unfortunately, I am. But they watched me, and they watched me lose weight. On and off, that weight came and went. Unfortunately, when me and the wife separated, I kind of didn't care anything about weight loss at all. Somewhat, I was drinking a lot more at that point, and I was on really the beer and chicken wing diet. And to be blunt, your body will use whatever it can, whenever it can. So if according to medical science, I'd be dead by now for spending 6 months of eating chicken wings and beer 6 days a week. And on the 7th day, actually, I had a salad and beer. And usually a sandwich of some sort to break it up a little bit. So from a cholesterol perspective, I should be dead. Doctors, oh no, I should be dead. Every time they took my blood checked, they found out it was marginal high blood pressure, which I've had my entire life. It's just, everyone has marginal high blood pressure. It's an excuse for them to give you pills. But regardless, the weight was slowly coming back on. And it did not help that I liked a girl that worked at Buffalo Wild Wings. She was a server, so you go there for 6 days a week. Drink a lot of beer. That's a lot of calories. You're talking 6,000 calories a day. The good news is I was walking there to get there. So I would burn maybe about 1,500 or about 2,000 calories to get there. But it still didn't countermand the fact that I was really eating, 5,000 to 6,000 calories a day in beer and chicken wings. Then I actually picked up a book I found in, I think it was a Dollar General or one of the stores. I found a book on calorie counting guide. And I go, well, maybe I should go back on Weight Watchers. And there's kind of a formula for Weight Watchers about how many calories and whatever. And I've actually simplified it to where 50 calories is 1 point. is kind of how I look at it. And I'm supposed to be eating so many points a day. So I kind of looked over this calorie counting guide, which was a huge, thick book. And it had all kinds of foods in it, fast foods and everything, what the calories were. But in the beginning, it said, this is made back in the 60s, but it's a paperback. And it actually, in the 60s, they did a lot of research on calories. And what they said was, if you're a sedentary person, which I am, I work behind a desk, so I'm not a marathon runner, I don't do any major exercise. If you take the number of calories you eat, divided by 10, that is the weight you're maintaining. Hear that again. If you take the calories you're eating, divide by 10, that is the weight you're maintaining. So if you go over and you're eating 3,000 calories a day, literally you're maintaining 300 pounds. Not good. Now, this is with no exercise. So I thought about it, man. I said, whoa, 1 minute here. That is actually really, really accurate. What makes it interesting is actually before they started bumping up the calorie numbers. So if you notice recently, they've been bumping up a lot of calorie numbers, like you're supposed to eat 1,800 calories a day. Well, knowing that fact that if you're sedimentary, it's times 10, that literally means at what originally at the time was 1,800 calories you're supposed to eat a day. So that means I'm supposed to maintain 180 pounds, which made sense because actually when I did reduce it to what I wanted, I did slowly reduce it. But I also found out with Weight Watchers, you have to be within 10% of where you are now. Otherwise, your body kind of goes into that shutdown mode and says, no, you're going to starve to death. But if you're within that 10%, your body says, well, it's just a fluctuation. I'm not going to worry about it. It doesn't panic your system to thinking you're starving to death. And hence the reason why you got 10%. You got your weight you're at, eat 10% less, calorie-wise, every week. And you'll slowly get your weight down. I was like, yes, finally. And it did work. The problem is I also found out, I got a dog at that point. So there's a lot of things that the dog likes to eat too. So actually, I did a lot of research on the carnivore diet, actually. Because I said, I kind of feel achy joints and everything else. And basically, the carnivore diet is supposedly the best diet. I wouldn't say the best diet. It is the diet, it's an elimination diet. In other words, because you're only eating meat, that's all you're eating, and you're getting all the vitamins from the meat, not from anything else, it eliminates any other possibility that, it eliminates inflammation. When I went on that, my dog loved me because me and her would eat dinner together. Have a steak a night or hamburger. Fat didn't really matter because fat was actually really good for the process. And you kind of overeat a little bit, and whatever it wasn't, the dog got it. And the dog was more than happy to get steak and steak bones and all that stuff. So I did that, and actually I lost a lot of weight. And I also found that a lot of vegetables, for me, causes a lot of inflammation. And there's a lot of research that says that, hey, you vegans, you better watch yourself because the human body is not really designed to actually deal with vegetables. There's a lot of toxins in it. You gotta drink a lot of water. You gotta take care of a lot of systems to not mess yourself up. But I'm not a doctor. I'm just saying what I've read. Now, oddly enough, I was not where I wanted to be. Then I read books on intermittent fasting and read online, and it was effective. And intermittent fasting is nothing more than, you're fasting so many hours of the day. So you are fasting, say, 18 and 6. You're eating 18-hour window, and you're fasting for 6. Or actually, it's the other way around. Eat for 6, fast for 18. That's what I would do. And that would mean literally, I didn't normally eat breakfast anyway. So it would be lunch, dinner, and then after dinner, I didn't eat till the next day. And that actually worked really well. And it really slowly brought the weight down. Still not where I want it to be, but it kind of worked. Only problem is my diet was still terrible. So I was still eating junk food. I was still, it was just, there has to be a mixture of all this that works. I said, I found some pieces work, some pieces don't. I suspect my next diet I'm probably going to be on is a combination of Weight Watchers, carnivore, and fasting, intermittent fasting. Right now, there's biblical fasting too. Biblical fasting literally is vegetable. Basically, you're eating fruits and nothing with sugar in it, nothing with a lot of salt in it. What's ironically about it is throughout my journey throughout life, what I did read up on, and actually I saw it on, I think it was a Facebook ad, and I went and looked it up, and it was actually true. If you look up your blood type, if you know what it is, there's certain foods your blood type is good about and certain foods it does not like. I looked up my blood type and found out it actually processes meat very well. It doesn't process anything else very well. No one processes sugar very well, and no one processes salt very well. Hint for you. And it kind of makes sense when you logically think about it because, your blood type is kind of genetic. And your blood type usually is based on your, I guess, call it origin of where your original DNA came from. Example is, if I'm a northern person, I come from the colder climates. There wasn't a lot of plants anyway, so you had to live off of animals. But you go more toward the equator where it's hotter, there's more fruits and vegetables, you're more apt to be able to eat them and process them. And that's kind of the dividing line, and the blood types too. It's kind of gets a little weird when you got a northern person and a southern person get together, and the child, it could be either one, I don't know. That's a little bizarre, I don't know, but it's actually interesting when you look that up because actually it kind of screams to be true. But I've not done any scientific testing on that. But there is some biblical fasting. Biblical fasting is more about fruits, vegetables, and that kind of thing. Less vegetables, oddly enough. Right now I'm fasting. And more than likely, we're going to have a very interesting time, me and the dog. Because throughout this journey, when I went on a carnivore diet, largely me and the dog ate the same food. The dog actually really did not want to eat dog food anymore. So I kind of weaned her onto human food because, what's wrong with, dogs in the wild eat meat. So she's kind of already on that already. So when I went to go fast, a funny story is when I first started my first fast, and I think I was fasting for 5 days I wanted to shoot for, I got 3 days, and then my dog brought me a rawhide bone that she hid in the house somewhere. Brought it to me, and it's like a nice new one too. It's not like it was chewed up or anything, like she wanted to trade or something. She just brought it to me like, oh, here, Dad, you need this or something. I'm like, why is she bringing me this bone? I don't get this. And then it occurred to me, it's like, oh, and I looked at her dog bowl, it's like she didn't eat because she refuses to eat until I eat. Like, oh, rats. And I got to figure out how to resolve this because I'm going to be fasting. Well, I did find out that if I pretend to eat, she'll kind of eat sometimes. I also found out that if after 1 day of her not eating, if I give her, like, say, strips of bacon, she'll wolf it down without a problem. She won't care about if I eat or not. So there's certain foods that, while I'm fasting, that she would eat. A lot of bacon, a lot of ham, stuff like that. Dehydrated ham. So that's kind of good. So largely, we're going to be on a human food diet. I said, right now, I'm in a car. I'm homeless in a car. So for the most part, I'm fasting. I'm losing my weight. Hers a little more complicated because she's kind of gotten used to foraging, which basically means she will go for a walk 3 times a day. We walk approximately 10 miles a day. Just me walking her. And we'll go for a walk and we'll walk by a garbage can that's outside. And she'll sniff it and she sits down like, there's something in there I want. I'm like, oh, baby. So I go in there and I look and she usually finds something. Oddly enough, people actually throw a lot away. People have a lot of waste, by the way. Just saying. People just take half their meal and throw it away. Her favorite is Chick-fil-A And by the way, most kids in their kids' meals don't actually eat the meat, eat the chicken. So my dog enjoys that because she eats it. She also enjoys Chick-fil-A macaroni and cheese. She gets that a lot because people want it and they don't want it. Sometimes to get chicken bowls. She also likes Jaggers. They're a relatively new chain, real good chain. If you got one there, you should buy one. It's good food. It's actually, I enjoyed their burgers. They're 2 burgers, and I think they're like $7 for two patties on a burger. But it's really, really good. The reason my dog likes them actually a lot is because A, they're beef, not chicken. And also that they're so big that actually most people eat 2/3 of it and throw the rest out. So she gets a lot of it. So every day she kind of eats that. That's her diet. And she likes that variety. The other day she found, oddly enough, in a Tupperware container, someone threw out, and it was noodles, egg noodles with a little bit of chicken pieces in it. And she ate that. So as I said, I have to deal with the fact that I like, us as humans, we like variety, and we don't really think of our pets. Our pets need them also. As I said through this is my crazy adventure in weight loss. Currently, I am losing weight. Actually, I'm actually below, I believe I'm actually below 180, that I'm heading toward my, I guess you could call it what the weight God wants me at, because God just keeps telling me to just keep fasting and be all right. Drink a lot of water and be all right. So that's where I currently sit right now. More likely, my next diet will be more, you could say it'll be more of a eating less as a general rule. When you've been fasting a while, you're very reluctant to eat a lot, because after 7 days of fasting, actually what happens, I said, read books on it. It's a very interesting topic. But fasting after 7 days resets your hunger trigger. I didn't even know I had one until 7 days. Usually after 7 days, your body kind of resets and you go into apophagy, which means your body is actually reclaiming bad cells. And it's reusing them. It's kind of like cannibalizing them, to make better cells out of them. So it kind of takes bad cells or defective cells, breaks them apart, and reuses them. It makes new cells out of them. So actually you're forcing your body to make new cells. So anything that's damaging you kind of slowly gets rebuilt. Before you do any weight loss program, you want to see a doctor. But actually anyone who has any issues with cholesterol or issues with diabetes, actually, you need to consult your doctor. But actually you may want to consider fasting, because 90% of books that talk about fasting, intermittent fasting or regular fasting, actually are for people who have those issues. And actually it usually clears it up without medication. So, just dietary change. So I just thought I would share that, and for anyone who needs that, because I've went through various things in my life. Oddly enough, Atkins actually did work, but it plateaued after a while. And it actually had to do with the fact of you can't constantly do it, because you have to have carbs somewhere sometime. Maybe it's called to be social. If I just lived in my home and worked remote and didn't have to do anything, maybe you could, because technically Atkins and carnivore are similar. Because even on carnivore, you can have eggs. Creepy as it sounds, it has to do with the fact you're not eating any carbs. Carbs seem to be really horribly bad. So is sugar. Literally, if you eliminate that, to a minimum, you can make your own diet if you wanted to. But as I said, what I found effective is if you take the weight you're at right now, divide it by 10, you come up with a number. That's the weight that you eat. You take your weight you're at now, multiply by 10. That is the number of calories you are to maintain that weight. If you subtract 10%, eat that many calories for 2 weeks, and then reevaluate that again, you'll slowly lose weight and you won't be hungry. because your body actually won't know. Because your body is not that delicate of an instrument to where it thinks that way. It does think the absence, fasting is actually kind of shocking to the system. And sometimes that's actually what you want. In my case, fasting actually was like taking 2 paddles for CPR. Boom! Jumpstart that heart, because you just basically said you're going to starve. And after 7 days, after 3 days, your body actually doesn't tell you it's hungry anymore, because I guess you're not going to eat. Now, what's weird about it is, actually, in my case, it says, well, if you're not going to feed me, I'm going to cut off the heat. So I'm going to stop regulating your body heat. So literally, it is 75 degrees in the office, and your teeth are chattering because your body thinks it's cold. So it refuses to give you heat. So there's some interesting trade-offs in this. But that actually lasted a couple days, and then finally what ended up happening was I got a very big rush of energy, like really rush of energy. And when you look it up, it actually means that your body is really starting to kick into fat burning production. And the fat that you have is far cleaner of an energy. It's just like most people don't realize that eating itself takes a lot of energy. Like I think it was, they said 60% of your energy, of your calories that you eat a day, just is for digestion. So when you remove that and say, okay, if I'm not eating as much, I'm eating less, you get certain things. You don't need to eat as much per se. You could literally eat a cube of cheese and that's your meal for the day. I wouldn't recommend it, but technically, theoretically, that is correct, because you don't really need that much anymore because you're not digesting a lot. Just like what you eat is important. Like they say, it's you want to lose weight, eat a lot of carrots, raw carrots. Not a lot, but eat a lot of them, because they're actually, when you don't chew them very well, actually it takes a while for them to digest in your stomach. And that process consumes time and calories that it's not going to get from the carrot. So it's not like it's, if you eat a piece of meat, you have a ratio of, how much calories you're going to get from the meat versus digestion. It's actually horribly poor, but it will digest. So just food for thought on that one. But that's my thoughts on weight loss. As I said, I've been kind of fighting it all my life. And in the future, it'll be more interesting, because I'm starting to put a system together that is more comprehensive for myself. And it's very heavily individualized, and people don't realize that. But I have a tendency to believe that the calorie counting of the 60s was accurate, because if you look back at the way food was back then, back in the 60s, it was actually better food. It wasn't as processed as it is now. Our body can't deal with any of the processed food. I don't even think there's any calories in any of it. Or actually, I should say there's too many calories in it, and there's no nutrition in any of it. So really, your body doesn't know what to do with this, other than it's a waste product. And we keep buying it and eating it. I don't get it. So hence the reason why almost every diet kind of works to a point. But I strongly suggest, if you have to give any of these a shot. We're back to in life, sometimes you have to be agile. You try it for a month. If it doesn't work, move on to the next one. Oddly enough, no matter what you do, you really can't kill your body, after a month. Or let's say a week. Try it for a week, Atkins is not going to kill you for a week. Weight Watchers ain't going to kill you for a month. Carnivore, if you're a vegetarian, well, I can't help you there. But if you're open to try it. Carnivore is the most interesting diet, because you don't lose weight quickly, but you do find out what your other allergies are. You find out what you shouldn't be eating at all. And you can slowly add stuff back to carnivore, like, okay, I want to add cheese back in, or I want to add some vegetables. And you'll find out immediately if you have inflammation, because it will start. And that means now you can't have that. And that's important, because we don't really know our body. It's not like our bodies come with a guide. And it's not like the doctors, actually, or nutritionists, will actually tell you much anything. I swear they walk down a little flow chart that says, oh, try this. Did this work? No. All medical science is that now. They have no clue what they're doing. They just keep going down a chart until they run out of options and they run out of pharmaceutical drugs to give you. That's really what it boils down to. But I do believe your body will naturally regulate itself. And it will naturally regulate itself to whatever you need. Fasting is kind of unusual. That one you probably need to see a doctor before you start doing that. Or at least hardcore doing it. Intermittent fasting is actually fairly safe. It's really, really safe. Unless you have real serious blood problems. You can usually try. Just don't eat for 4 hours, 8 hours. See what happens. It doesn't have to be, there's various forms of intermittent fasting. I went pretty extreme. But even if you ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner and didn't eat after that, no snack or nothing, that's considered intermittent fasting. You'll still lose weight and you'll still regulate your, blood sugar. That's it. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to pretend to be one. But that's my thoughts on weight loss. I've had bouts my entire life, and I'll tell you what works, what does not. Weight Watchers was the most interesting one. Is Weight Watchers, it works when you know about the 10%. If you take if you do the calorie counter and do the 10%, it works too. Just like Weight Watchers. That's a little secret no one tells you about. They saw all these programs, these motivational things, but they don't tell you that, the calorie counting part of it. But I said, I am a fan of the calorie counting part because it was done back at a time when it was more innocent in the world. And food actually did something. And they did a lot of studies. And a lot of the studies were, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, kids usually. Hey, what happens when we fed them this? What happens when we fed them that? And they found out that, hey, this is how it goes both ways. It's not perfect. Calories in, calories out is not exact like that. I go, but what people deem as exercise is not always exercise. And the calorie books, for you to make a significant difference for exercise to actually help you lose weight, you would have to be a marathon runner and do it almost every day. I don't think any of us burn 6,000 calories a day in exercise. Exactly. But you could. But that's one of the reasons why I got a watch that tells me, how many steps I've done, and it tells me how many, quote, calories I've burned. Literally, I think, if I remember correctly, every 10,000 steps, which is 5 miles, according to my watch, to the GPS of my watch. So 10,000 steps for me is 5 miles, and that literally is roughly about 3,000 or 4,000, that's 3,000 calories. I generally average right now 15 miles a day, and that's burning literally 3,500 calories. Now, mind you, I'm not eating, so. And when I do eat, it's actually really, really small. I eat some bread when I do eat. So when I do eat, I unfortunately, it was one of those Walmart loaves, and I eat an entire loaf a day. I go, but the calorie count on that is like 800 calories. So that's what I'm eating in a day. So there's always a deficit completely. But I just want to let you know, I said, give things a try if you want to lose weight. Nothing's perfect. Find out what works, what doesn't work, and then try it in combination with other things. There's nothing that'll really kill you. I would say if you eat a lot of vegetables, kind of beware of that a little bit. Just like if you eat a lot of meat. If you're a vegetarian and you go to carnivore, you're going to have an issue because your body's not used to it. So there's an adjustment period. Just like there's an adjustment period if you go from a carnivore or eating meat to not eating meat, being a vegetarian. It's a big shock to your system. Don't get me wrong, it's a flushing mechanism, but it will cause you misery. I go, but once you get through the misery, your body will adjust like it's supposed to. Hence the reason why I did not try to go to any of the extremes. I've heard that vegan works, but I've also heard that based on my blood type, I'm probably better off eating fruits. Fruits and no vegetables at all. And the vegetables I do get are usually, it's a salad once a week. I'm not willing to go any farther, and I think actually I'm in love with the dressing, not really the salad. So, anyway, That's my thoughts. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.